Good morning, PT on Ice Daily Show. My name is Guillermo Contreras. I'm a physical therapist in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Happy Monday to everybody who's coming on live with us this morning. Here to talk about some good stuff on Monday morning. Get your week started right, hopefully. Before we jump into the topic at hand, just want to talk about how fun of a weekend I had this weekend here in Milwaukee. We had Mitch Babcock with Fitness Athlete live here in Milwaukee. Was happy to help him out and work with him over the weekend. A really great group of about 11 clinicians from the local area, as well as Minnesota and Illinois, and even Marquette, Michigan. So a lot of people drove in for it. So it was a really good time, awesome time. If you haven't taken Fitness Athlete live, highly recommend that you look into it, check it out for yourself, and jump in if you've been looking to do it. Upcoming courses, I think we're all done for May, but June is a nice full calendar. So June 5th through 6th, so that first weekend in June, we have a rehab of the injured runner going in Parker, Colorado. Fitness Athlete live in Bozeman, Montana, and then Modern Management of the Older Adult live in Olney, Maryland. June 19th and 20th, got MMOA live in Mesa, Arizona, and Lumbar Spine in Richmond, Virginia. I believe that's at Onward Richmond. June 26th and 27th, we have Cervical Spine in Santa Rosa, California, CMFA live in Bear, Delaware, and then Lumbar Spine in Simi Valley, California. And then I think that's all we have on the docket for courses in June. So make sure you head over to the website, check out the live courses, and see if any of those are in your area. So you can definitely jump in on any of those and attend those. Online, we have Essential Foundations of Fitness Athlete starting up again June 7th. So you still have about 2 weeks to sign up and jump into that next cohort if you've been looking to do that. Advanced Concepts, you have a little more time. Next cohort does not start until July 12th. So plenty of time there, at least 2 months to really figure out if that's what you want to do and then jump in on it. Recommend getting in on it sooner rather than later, because those do fill up and there's a limit to how many people can be in those cohorts. Pregnancy and Postpartum Athleticism, Fitness Athlete. June 28th is that next cohort. And then the next cohort of Essential Foundations for Modern Management of the Older Adult is June 23rd. So again, a lot of online courses, a lot of live courses all coming up in the next month to 2 months. So make sure you head over to ptonice.com, check out all the course offerings online and live, and sign up for whichever one you think you want to take and which one is going to best fit your practice and your goals. And you can't really go wrong with taking any of those courses. So hopefully we see you in one of those soon. So the topic at hand this morning is stronger people are harder to kill. And it's from a quote from Mark Ripito. It's a little longer. It says, stronger people are harder to kill and more useful in general, or in general more useful, right? If you've taken Fitness Athlete Live, if you've taken MMOA Live, if you've taken any of those courses in either of those divisions, you've probably heard that quote before. And this topic came at hand over the weekend when with teaching Fitness Athlete Live and talking about the importance of strength training and hypertrophy training. And it started jogging my memory back to a podcast I listened to years ago before I was even, before I knew about ICE, where a guy who was a PhD in exercise physiology, who's an instructor at, I think, Cal, talking about physiology and discussing how so many of the people he's heard about, or clients he's seen, doctors will tend to say, like, you know what, you have a heart issue, your blood pressure gets really high, your heart rate spikes, all these other things. And he pointed out that what sometimes is seen as a heart issue, a cardiovascular issue, is actually a strength issue. And he brought studies about how, like, the biggest determinant of longevity of life and independence of life is leg strength. Not blood pressure, not heart issues, not anything else, but leg strength, the strength of the legs. And so then I started thinking, okay, where have I seen some studies before? Because some things started hitting my memory. I'm like, okay, I've read some things about hemodynamics and what happens when you're going for a 1 rep, and like how does that correlate to your heart and your breathing and all these other things too. And I found a study from when I took a blood flow restriction course, and it talked about how at 70% of 1 rep max, you reach 100% occlusion of your blood vessels, right? And I started thinking, okay, if someone is, for example, let's say your 1 rep max is 300 pounds for a back squat, and I say, okay, go ahead and take that 300-pound bar, stand it up one time. How hard was that? More than likely, you say that was like a 9 or 10 out of 10, right? That was really, really hard. That was right at my maximal load. Couldn't do much more than that. Imagine if your legs were so weak, so limited in what they could do, that just getting out of a chair was 70 to 80% of your 1 rep max. Getting off the toilet was 70 to 80% of your 1 rep max. Getting out of the car was 70 to 80% of your 1 rep max, right? You kind of get where I'm going here. If that's the amount of difficulty that it takes to get out of that chair, to stand up, imagine the strain on the heart, on your body, every single time you're trying to do this simple task, right? That used to be so easy, but is now so difficult because we've gotten so weak. We've been so limited in how strong we are. It limits everything. And so when you lift a heavy weight, when you're lifting really, really heavy loads, right? I think they show that sometimes people will have blood pressures of 480 over 250 because of the amount of constriction of those blood vessels when you're working at that heart, and your heart, or at that level, and your heart rate can spike up to around 170 beats per minute at its max, or even higher depending on how hard you're working. Like, I think I saw in the same study, even small muscle groups like your biceps, your shoulders, and like that, your blood pressure, if you're working hard enough, you can get your blood pressure up to 255 over 190. And that's just because of the hemodynamics in the body, right? Constricting your muscles, constricting those vessels. And again, that can have a significant strain on the heart. It can lead to a much more difficult time doing a number of things, and then just higher levels of exhaustion. And so with that said, that's why it's so important that we get our patients stronger, right? Not just for like some like inner thing where we're like, you know what, strength is really important. I like to do strength training. They should be doing strength training. No, because it could save their life. It could make them more able to live their lives independently the rest of their lives, right? And I'm kind of redundant with the word life there, but it's the idea that we talk about in older adult of let's not live a 1 rep max life, right? If getting out of a chair is near or at a 1 rep max level, that's not the way we want to live our lives. That's not the way we want to see our patients live their lives. That's not the way we want our parents or our uncles or any older adult or someone growing up. We don't want them living their life that way. And that's just like the intro, right? So when we dive into this topic, what do we know? Like, how do we build strength? How do we build hypertrophy? How do we build muscle mass, size, and strength? And if we look at different guidelines, we see that the ACSM guidelines recommend for novice and intermediate lifters, they should be using anywhere from 65 to 85% of their 1 rep max. And for strength and hypertrophy specifically. And it should be somewhere around 12 to 16 weeks of training. I know most of us probably are only seeing individuals, maybe ideally if we can, like 4 to 6 weeks. But I know a lot of post-operative patients are rarely seen only for like 4 weeks. Some are seen for 12, like 2-3 months. Some are seen for 4 months. Some are extended with like a tapering effect, or maybe you're seeing them for 3-4 months, post-op ACL, post-op rotator cuff surgery, something along those lines where it's a little bit more conservative in the beginning, but then we really ramp it up and get them stronger towards the end. And even our total knees, right? Most of them we're not seeing for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We're seeing them for longer plans of care. And what we know is post-operatively, a lot of these individuals are going to have significant atrophy of whatever the joint or the limb that was surgically worked on, right? How often are we truly pushing these people? Especially once we get past that first window when that pain is like really, really high, but now we're able to do a little bit more. Are we truly pushing them to those levels? Are we staying really light? Are we 5 weeks in? Are we still doing like shorter quads and quad sets? Or are we getting them squatting to a box to parallel with like a 18 or 20 or 40 pound kettlebell, whatever they can tolerate, right? I've yet to see anyone who's post-op knee replacement or hip replacement who's not weight bearing is tolerated. And if they can tolerate getting out of a chair and being mindful of precautions and all that stuff, right? If they can get out of a chair, then why can't we load that a little bit? Even if we start with a little bit less, right? And we saw, there's another study that came out in 2021 recently with Schoenfield, which was just a big review. And even they recommended, looking at all the research over the last several decades, is that moderate loads provide the most efficient means to achieve muscle development, right? Not the 1 pound dumbbell, not the 5 pound kettlebell. Like, we're talking at least, 14, 20, 30 pounds, depending on the individual we're working with. And if we're working with a youth athlete who's trying to get back to sport, why aren't we using a heavy barbell? Getting them loaded up with maybe some double 50s for a box squat. Dumbbells up here either way too, kettlebell, like heavy kettlebell goblet squat with the 70 pounder, right? Why are we not pushing those things? Because we know that leg's going to be weaker. We know there's going to be atrophy here on board. Are we doing everything we can to build up that muscle strength? And if you say yes, but you're not using moderate to heavy loads for these individuals, which equate to an intensity RP somewhere around 7 or 8 out of 10 towards those final few reps, Are you actually working these people to that point? Right? Light loads, light resistance are going to increase the amount of slow twitch fiber activation, which is going to bring in a lot more oxygen or aerobic fuel sources. But unfortunately, there's no signal there. There's no factor that's going to signal muscle to grow and get stronger. There's going to be some buildup of metabolites and things like that where it's going to feel uncomfortable, and more than likely they're going to say like, I'm done, I'm cashed out, I don't want to do anymore. But we're not getting that same stress. And what we know about muscle tissue, what we know about the set principle, we know about specificity, is if we want something to get stronger, we need to push it to get to a point where that muscle needs to say, I need to get stronger. Maybe we cause a little muscular damage, we create some DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, and then we rebuild and get stronger in that way. So we need to be pushing a little bit more than probably what we're doing now. And more often than not, especially in our older adult population, they may be a little bit more wary of it. They're like, I don't know, this seems kind of heavy. But just because it seems heavy doesn't mean it actually is, right? You can hand it to them and be like, well, you know what, just try a couple for me, see how you do. If they fail, that's okay, right? It's like, okay, you know what? I was wrong. Let's try a little bit lighter. Let's see how it goes. Maybe we slow it down. I want you to show me good control. But if you never challenge them with a 10 or a 15 or a 20, they don't know that they can do that, and you don't know that they can do that. And you don't get to see that change over time. Especially if you start with a 5, and then you see a 10 and a 15, and by the time they discharge, they're doing 35-pound kettlebells, and you're sending them to a local personal trainer, group fitness center, anything like that, where you can help them continue their care after they're done. So, again, it's a little bit of a rant, and again, I was just kind of inspired by the weekend, so hopefully it's still giving you a little bit of juice to kind of get the week going for you. But the things I want to really send home here is we need to be applying adequate stress to our patients. We need to be using good data, right? We need to know what is actually going to elicit that kind of stress. Do you know how to determine a 1 rep max, a 3 rep max, a 5 rep max? Maybe you do an 8 rep max and you go back and you use a 1 rep max calculator to find that and then kind of base your dosing on that number? Or are you just being arbitrary with what you give them? Are you using maybe an AMRAP set where you say, hey, I want you to do as many repetitions as you can to determine if that RPE of a 6 that they're telling you or an 8 that they're telling you is truly around there? Or is it not really that hard and they just knock out 25 reps on that last set? And then are you using RPE? Right? Are you asking, hey, Maggie, how difficult is that? On a scale of 0 to 10, how hard would you say that felt to you? And seeing if that patient can really correlate difficulty with the load and say, like, you know what, that felt like an 8 out of 10. And you're like, okay, let's do one more set. Do as many as you can, though. And then they knock out 7 or 8 reps, and your goal was only to have them hit 6. That's pretty close to what you're trying to hope for, right? They could probably knock out 1 or 2 more reps. You're right on target. But again, if they knock out 15 to 20 reps, okay, we're a little off. We're going to have your next time, Maggie. Sorry, right? Okay, next thing is we need to understand and be very comfortable with strength training, right? We need to understand these principles. I know it's one thing in PT school we don't get a lot of is strength and conditioning principles, like the really big stuff, the ideas of undulating periodization or progressive overload, or just like a nice periodized program where you're increasing reps, sets, and load, all these things and going down and playing around with it, right? There's a lot of nuances to it. You don't have to be an expert at it, but you should have a nice foundational understanding of these principles so that you can greater benefit your patients. Even with lower loads, maybe we're using light to moderate loads, can you really stress your patient enough where they're doing a lot? It should still be difficult for them. If we're doing 3 sets of 10, but that individual could knock out all 30 reps in one set, why are we doing 3 sets of 10 and why are we using that light of a load, right? If a patient were to tell you, why am I doing 3 sets of 10? Why am I doing this exercise? And why am I using this weight? And you don't have an answer for them, you should probably figure that out. I'm just going to say that right there, put that out there, right? Challenge to you. If anyone were to ask you, why am I doing this? Okay, that's I get that by doing this exercise. Why am I using this weight? And why am I doing this rep scheme? And why am I only doing 3 sets? And why am I resting in between? Like, you should be able to answer why you're doing everything for them versus like, oh, I just start everyone with 3 sets of 10. That's just what I do. Not going to fly, right? We need to be better than that. Okay. And lastly, like, I would say, like, what this kind of here, like, Jeff Moore's quote, like, you can't have good results from bad data. We have to know what we're doing, right? Post-operative patients, deconditioned patients, we need to know kind of how we're helping with, right? If we're looking at like, you know what, this patient needs to get stronger, I want to see their leg grow, I want to do some circumferential measurements. Is their quad size actually getting bigger? Or Or am I just saying, here's a manual muscle test. Yeah, it feels like it's getting stronger. Let's keep going, right? Are we doing something besides manual muscle tests for strengthening? Are we doing a leg extension? Are we doing a leg press? Something where we can say, hey, when you first started therapy, you could only leg press 100 pounds, but today on your second to last day, second to last week, you're already hitting 185 pounds for 6 reps. You could barely do 5 reps with 100 pounds day 1, right? That's big concrete data. That's a good number that someone can say like, holy cow, I've gotten much stronger. Same thing with a circumferential measurement, right? Some people do that already. They like to know those things, but you can look at their thigh and say, you know what? I see your swelling is going down, but the big thing I'm looking at is your quad size. The circumference of your quad has definitely gotten bigger. And that's a huge thing because a bigger muscle is going to more likely be a stronger muscle too. So are we checking quad size and strength, especially on post-operative patients? Are we checking bicep strength? Are we looking at kind of the tone and the muscle tissue and the rotator cuff of the shoulder for post-operative arms? Right? There's a lot of things we can do. The calf, Achilles tendon ruptures. Are we looking at gastroc, soleus, girth? Are we looking at those things too to make sure that we're building some mass in there and improving their strength overall? Awesome. So hopefully, like I said, it was just a little bit of a rant this morning, something that kind of came to me this weekend as I was teaching with Mitch. Hopefully someone got value out of that. If not, I apologize for making you listen to the last 15 minutes. But awesome. Thanks again for tuning in this morning, for listening in on the podcast or checking it again on Facebook or Instagram. Hope everyone has a wonderful Monday. Have a great week. Get after it this week, gang. Thank you again for tuning in.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.